Rogue Core isn't just the same mining loop with a roguelite mode thrown on top. The entire structure has changed, and Ghost Ship is using this project to test ideas they never even dreamed of putting into the original game back in 2018. There are drastic changes, new progression systems that will completely alter how we face the caves, and very interesting production details for those who like to dig deep. So put on your helmet, grab your pickaxe, and ready your jetpack. Because today I'm bringing you 10 interesting facts about Deep Rock Galactic, Rogue Core that they definitely didn't tell you up front. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to start. Expedite. That name alone sounds like something the corporation made up to make it seem like you are doing something important while crawling through the caves of Hox's IV. But jokes aside, this rare mineral is the heart of the entire mid-run progression system in Rogue Core, and understanding how it works completely changes the way you play. The idea is simple but beautifully executed. As you advance through the procedurally generated caves, you collect Expedite and use it to buy temporary upgrades mid-journey. It's not a resource you hoard for later. It's a currency that exists to be spent at the right moment, on the right upgrade, to keep you alive in the most critical situations the game throws your way. What I liked most is how this mechanic creates genuinely tough decisions. Do you spend it now and secure immediate survival, or do you hold on to your expedite gambling that you'll reach a better shop further ahead? This type of dilemma is exactly what makes a roguelite memorable, because every choice has real weight and a direct consequence on your run. And there's something almost poetic about the fact that the operation's most valuable resource isn't extracted and sent back to the corporation. It stays with you, being used to keep you alive on a mission that DRG itself isn't even sure will succeed. Expedite isn't profit, it's survival. And on Hox's I-4, that distinction matters a lot. If you thought the Glyphids were enough trouble, Rogue Core is here to show you that you had no idea what real trouble actually meant. In the depths near the core of Hox's IV, there is a completely different threat waiting for you, the core spawn. And from the very first moment you hear about them, you can tell things are serious. The core spawn aren't just new enemies with a different skin. They are creatures that are more aggressive, more resilient, and what worries me most, smarter than anything the miners have faced before. The Glyphids were always dangerous, but over time their behavior became predictable. These guys seem to be a completely different story, and that fundamentally changes how you need to play. What I find most fascinating is the choice to place these creatures specifically in the deepest layers, near the planet's core. That's no design coincidence. It's a statement. The deeper you go, the more hostile and unknown the environment becomes. It's as if the planet itself is warning you not to keep descending, and the core spawn are the guarantee that this warning will be respected. And this ties in perfectly with the whole premise of the game. You are in a dead communications zone with no evacuation possible, facing creatures that nobody has properly studied yet. Every encounter with a core spawn is basically a real-time lesson on how they function, because there is no manual, there is no useful corporate briefing. You learn or you die, and then you try again. If you've been following Deep Rock Galactic since its original launch, you probably already know that the linear mission loop with permanent upgrades between runs has always been one of the game's trademarks. Now, with Rogue Core, the developers have decided to flip the table, literally, and transform the experience into a total roguelite. This change isn't just a minor tweak, it redefines what it means to prepare for the mission every single time you step into the caves. What does this mean in practice? Every time you start a run, you begin almost from scratch, just your trusty pickaxe and basic gauntlets. There is no longer that arsenal of equipment you accumulated over dozens of hours that stayed saved between matches. Instead, everything you use, weapons, mods, special abilities, needs to be found within the mission itself, scattered across crates, enemy drops, or random objective rewards. It's as if each expedition is a small survival experiment, where you have to adapt to whatever the game decides to give you at that moment. And the beauty of it lies precisely in the unpredictability. One run might gift you a devastating flamethrower right in the first quarter, while another might force you to rely exclusively on melee attacks and mobility buffs until you find something better. This variation forces you out of your comfort zone, testing combinations you would normally ignore, and discovering unexpected synergies between classes. The feeling of progress shifts from, I have this powerful gear, to I managed to survive and improve my loadout in this run, which brings a more immediate and, at the same time, more challenging satisfaction. Of course, the difficulty ramps up as you advance into the depths, just like in any good roguelite. Enemies become tougher, environments grow more hazardous, and resources become scarce, making every upgrade decision carry a lot more weight. When I first heard that Rogue Core was initially planned as a DLC, I was curious to understand the reason behind such a drastic change. Ghost Ship Games revealed that the idea was born from an internal prototype, almost like a test expansion, but as they dove deeper into the mechanics, they realized it was about to mess up the carefully constructed balance of the original DRG. What they noticed was that the new systems, the roguelite loop, the random mid-run upgrades, and the fully reset progression, each mission, demanded adjustments to weapons, enemies, and even resources that simply wouldn't fit into the continuous update model of the base game. If they tried to wedge everything in as a DLC, they risked leaving traditional DRG bloated, or worse, creating two conflicting experiences that would split the community. That was when the team decided the best path forward would be to give the project a life of its own. Turning Rogue Core into a standalone game gave the developers the freedom to experiment without restrictions. They were able to rebalance weapons from the ground up, design enemies that specifically challenge the roguelite playstyle, and even venture bolder with the art direction, think darker biomes, different lighting effects, and a soundtrack that shifts between the tension of deep exploration and the pulsing rhythm of a roguelite. All of this without having to worry about how it would affect those still playing classic DRG in traditional co-op. This decision shows an enormous amount of care for the fan base, preserving the essence of the game we love while offering a fresh experience that can appeal to both veterans and those looking for something different. One of the most unsettling things about the premise of Rogue Core is what exactly sends the Reclaimers into Hox's IV. There has been a total communications blackout across all facilities, and nobody knows exactly why. No signal coming in, no signal going out, just silence. And in the Deep Rock Galactic universe, silence underground is never a good sign. What makes this even more intense is that the dwarves go in knowing exactly what they are getting into. There is a magnetic barrier covering the entire operation zone, and that barrier doesn't come down until the mission is completely finished. No early exits, no emergency evacuations. You finish the job, or you don't come back. This isn't a system glitch, it's a deliberate corporate decision, and that alone tells you how desperate the situation truly is. Think about what that means for the gameplay experience. Every run you start, you aren't just entering a random dungeon, you are walking into a communications dead zone with zero backup, surrounded by who knows what, and the only way out is forward. This kind of pressure changes everything about how you approach each mission, and it gives the roguelite structure a narrative weight that genuinely makes sense. And honestly, the mystery of what caused the gray out is what keeps pulling me in. Did something wake up down there? Did a corporate experiment spin completely out of control? The game doesn't hand you the answers up front, and that's exactly how it should be. Hox's IV has always been a planet that keeps its secrets, and Rogue Core seems heavily committed to keeping that tradition alive. Expedite. That name alone sounds like something the corporation made up to make it seem like you are doing something important while crawling through the caves of Hox's IV. But jokes aside, this rare mineral is the heart of the entire mid-run progression system in Rogue Core, and understanding how it works completely changes the way you play. The idea is simple but beautifully executed. As you advance through the procedurally generated caves, you collect Expedite and use it to buy temporary upgrades mid-journey. It's not a resource you hoard for later. It's a currency that exists to be spent at the right moment, on the right upgrade, to keep you alive in the most critical situations the game throws your way. What I liked most is how this mechanic creates genuinely tough decisions. Do you spend it now and secure immediate survival, or do you hold on to your expedite gambling that you'll reach a better shop further ahead? This type of dilemma is exactly what makes a roguelite memorable, because every choice has real weight and a direct consequence on your run. And there's something almost poetic about the fact that the operation's most valuable resource isn't extracted and sent back to the corporation. It stays with you, being used to keep you alive on a mission that DRG itself isn't even sure will succeed. Expedite isn't profit, it's survival. And on Hox's I-4, that distinction matters a lot. Forget the space rig. In Rogue Core, your home between missions is the RV-09 Ramrod, and right off the bat, it gives off a completely different vibe from anything fans of the original game are used to. It's a smaller, more enclosed ship with the personality of a high-risk operation that has no time for comfort or frivolity. What makes the Ramrod especially interesting is who runs it. An AI named Omi Gay is responsible for keeping everything functional, and it's through her that all permanent progression happens, unlocks, customizations, and upgrades that stay with you between runs. This isn't just some background character. Omija is basically your only reliable lifeline on a mission where everything else is falling apart. Trading the space rig for the Ramrod says a lot about the tone Rogue Core wants to set. The space rig always had that bustling base energy, full of dwarves coming and going, with an almost casual atmosphere. The Ramrod is the opposite. It's a lean, functional, special operations vessel that exists for a single purpose. You feel the weight of the mission just by standing inside it. And personally, I think this design choice was very smart. Instead of just reusing familiar backdrops, the developers created a space that reinforces the Reclaimer's identity. You aren't in a comfortable corporate base. You are in a ship maintained by an AI in the middle of deep space, preparing to drop into a planet that just swallowed all communications. The Ramrod isn't a hub, it's a constant reminder that there is no easy way back. There is a decision behind Rogue Core that I feel deserves more attention than it's getting. Ghost Ship Games, the studio responsible for the original Deep Rock Galactic, delegated the development of the game's new seasons to partner studio Invisible Walls. This isn't small news, it's a significant shift that shows just how much Ghost Ship is betting on this new project. Think about what this means in practice. The original Deep Rock Galactic is still alive, still receiving support, and the seasons keep rolling in. But Ghost Ship decided they couldn't do all that and still deliver Rogue Core with the quality it deserves. So instead of splitting their attention and compromising both projects, they made a tough choice and put all their chips on the new game. What impresses me about this decision is the honesty behind it. Many studios would try to juggle both projects at the same time, and the result almost always shows in the final quality. Ghost Ship recognized their own limits, found a trusted partner in Invisible Walls, and ensured neither game would suffer from a lack of focus. That is studio maturity. And for fans of the original, this is actually good news in disguise. The game you love continues to be developed by people dedicated exclusively to it, while the team that created the entire universe has its full energy focused on expanding that universe in a completely new way. In the end, everybody wins. There is a word that Ghost Ship Games used to describe Rogue Core that is worth understanding straight from the source: roguelite, not roguelike. And this distinction isn't just terminological fussiness. It defines exactly the kind of experience you are going to have every time you step into Hox's IV. In practice, the difference looks like this. Each run is independent, you die, you restart, and the map is different. Up to that point, it feels like a classic roguelike. But between one mission and the next, back on the Ramrod, there's a layer of permanent progression waiting for you. New weapons, suits, mods, and improvements that stay with you no matter how many times you fail. This is what transforms the experience from frustrating to addictive. What I think is smartest about this structure is how it respects your time without removing the challenge. You never feel like a failed run was a complete waste of time because something always carries over. At the same time, the game doesn't hand you an easy victory just because you've played a lot. Each unlock leaves you better prepared, but skill still matters immensely down in the depths. And personally, I think this was the right choice for a co-op game. When you're playing with friends, nobody wants to feel like they lost hours of progress due to a single moment of bad luck. Persistent progression creates a sense of shared evolution, where the whole group gets stronger over time. And that's exactly the kind of thing that makes a team want to log on every night for one more run. If there is one thing that has defined the identity of the Deep Rock Galactic series from the very beginning, it's environmental destruction. Walls that give way, tunnels you dig yourself, and caves that respond to every shot and explosion. Rogue Core doesn't abandon this. It takes that foundation and pushes it to a place the original game literally never went. The deep descent toward the core of Hox's IV is the central axis of the entire experience, and the procedurally generated caves ensure that no two runs ever feel the same. But what really catches my attention is the promise of new environmental elements as you get closer to the core. It's not just the same destruction system on different maps, it's an environment that changes its personality the deeper you go. Think about what that means for co-op gameplay. In procedural, destructible caves, team communication goes way beyond watch out for the enemy on the right. The terrain itself becomes a constant variable. You can carve out a new path, blow down a wall to create cover, or accidentally turn a controlled situation into total chaos. This unpredictability is what gives each session its own unique story to tell afterward. And the decision to intensify these elements near the planet's core is narratively very clever. The deeper you descend, the more alien and hostile the environment should feel. And by having destruction and procedural generation working together in these deepest layers, the game manages to create that feeling of being in completely uncharted territory without needing a single cutscene to explain it to you.
Platform placed.